Hey, everybody. Welcome to the UGA Sports live broadcast, if you will, of the reaction to the Luther Burden announcement. Luther Burden, the number one wide receiver in the country, the number six player in the nation, has decided to stay home and play for Missouri. A lot of Georgia fans were hoping he would come to Georgia. A lot of Georgia pundits thought he was coming to Georgia. A lot of people quite disappointed, but at the same time, it's tough for a kid who decommits from Oklahoma to basically turn around and say, hey, I'm decommitting from Oklahoma. I want to stay closer to home, to actually stay closer to home. So, Jed, I know you've been following this. You were on Gabe D'Armand's show earlier today, and I don't think anybody was really certain of where the kid was going. Both sides were hearing that they felt confident. So, give me your thoughts on Luther Burden.
Yeah, it's like I told Gabe this morning. The only thing that really seemed certain was that he wasn't going to Alabama. Like that's what we didn't know. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Both, we were hearing Georgia, Missouri on this end. Gabe had heard Georgia, Missouri on that end. So no one really knew. No one knows if he told neither coaching staff, if he had told both coaching staffs, if he had told other commits. I mean, no one really knew anything until 7 o'clock, and then a little after. It was probably 15 minutes late from actually making his decision. So it was one of those things where it went down to the wire. No one really knew. I know right at 7 o'clock, stuff started rolling in for Missouri. Future cast, all that kind of stuff. But up until the moment of, no one really had any idea.
I will tell this because I had a long discussion with Blaine, who put in a future cast for Georgia, and I'm like, okay, I would be remiss if I didn't investigate why you're. I don't say so confident, but why are you putting in a future cast for him? Just like I would ask you and anybody else. What are you doing? What are you saying? And let me put in the chats here. Sorry. He said, look, I've got. But he didn't tell me who, but he started telling me basically where they were located, and it wasn't just one person that told him that. It wasn't one person that heard the kid was coming to Georgia. It was multiple stages of reinforcing things. It wasn't insiders on our board. This were people inside UGA, outside UGA, other targets, other recruits that said, hey, kid told me he's going to Georgia. Well, here's the thing. If you have a kid that's committed to your school and he hears another kid tells you, hey, I'm coming, that's pretty damn strong. It's like, okay. So, and again, you don't know this stuff for certain. And I go back to a kid that I mentioned quite often, a kid that gave me quotes about why he was going to Georgia and what the coaches said when he told them, and then he put on a hat and went to Clemson. So it's just that stuff happens. But I think this was a situation where the kid definitely was telling a lot of people what they wanted to hear. And some people just don't know how to say no. It's just easier to say, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I'll be there. Or he truly felt it at the time. But when he got back home, things changed. And I want to bring up where did that tweet go? Where the kid basically, he said it was real hard to say to no. Somebody asked him how hard would it say no to Georgia after the visit. He says it was real hard. And then he kind of paused, says it was a family decision. I'm telling you, when he was in town, I think it was, yeah, I'm coming to Georgia, but when we got back home, and remember his dad's right there in St. Louis. He wants to be close to his family. He wants to, put on for his state. He wants to be, like I said, be one of the first to, a lot of these big name kids go out of state for that. But I think this was more about staying at home and a family decision. I think he kind of changed his mind at the end. That's my take. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, that absolutely. I mean, it's like I was just going to say, he very well could have told, everyone. There's kind of a scenario where everyone's right here. I mean, he could have told all those people in Athens last weekend, hey, I'm coming to Georgia. And then he gets home and, he starts hearing from people close to home. I'm sure, Elijah Drinkwitz was blowing up his phone last night into this morning and all that kind of stuff. And like, who among us can't relate to that feeling, right? Of wanting to be close to home, of wanting to put on for your state, family, city, whatever it was. And that's something he said in the interview he gave after was, look, he wants to start a trend of guys from St. Louis not going to Georgia, not going to Missouri, or sorry, not going to Georgia or Alabama place, but going to Missouri, staying in state and all that kind of stuff. And
good luck starting that trend, because that shit ain't gonna happen. I can tell you right now. Hey, we got Blaine Gilmer on. Blaine, I was talking about some of our conversations early on about, I I won't come out and say I vetted your sources. I did make you kind of tell me who they were and what position they had, and you had more damn sources than I've ever seen. I'll tell you something. And then Ben has been following this like crazy, even with that awful Capitals hat that he has on. But you guys have been following us, so but let's go to Blaine.
I'll put a Ravens one on for Jed.
There you go. Blaine, I know you reported what you were hearing, and we do that all the time, and that's why. Hey, you notice one of our biggest things at UGA Sports is what we are hearing. That has become one of our monikers. Lots of times if we have it in a story, if we know for certain, it's a front page story.
Yeah.
If it's what we're hearing, it's a board post. So Blaine, kind of run us through the whole thing. What happened? I know you're supposed to be off tonight. I know you've been working all weekend, but I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to go say the prayers with the kids and get them in bed. But I told everybody if I was wrong on this, I would jump in and I would own that I was wrong. And hey, the several sources, and I'm not talking about like one or two. I'm talking about like 5, 6, 7 guys saying, yeah, this is Luther Burden. Luther Burden was going to be a dog. We feel he's a dog. That kind of stuff, and that's where I went with it. So, and I felt confident in those guys. The 22 before that followed the same process. Felt pretty good about it. So that's how it rolls sometimes. But this is he's an extraordinarily talented young man. Sounds like at the end, he's got some very deep ties there to that community, and the community had a lot to do with, rallying around him and keeping him kind of at home there. So, good for Luther Burden and Georgia. I'm sure we'll move on now to guys like Shaz Preston and maybe even ratchet up things on circle back on Kojo Antoine, who's been there for several weeks. Also, Andre Green Jr. is still out there, which obviously that's more leaning towards like, Penn State, a Clemson, a Texas A&M at the moment, but you never know.
I'm not going to hold my breath. Ben, give me your thoughts while we have Blaine here, because I know he's got to take care of his kids. Kids have to say the goodnight prayers.
Roddy, I was going to say this was definitely a decision about staying close to home, and I feel like it. And this is the tough part about covering high school kids. I was one of them. They change their minds a lot. I can't make a decision still about what food I want to eat when you put two things in front of me. So I know it's got to be tough for these kids. So
awful hat you'd wear.
I don't know. I know down in Georgia it's not hockey people, but I'm a hockey guy.
You put a San Jose Sharks hat on, we can talk. But
we had the Flames,
you're on double secret probation.
And the Thrashers. We lost 2 hockey.
Oh, the Thrashers.
We lost. Yeah, when's the last time
now you
lost
have to rep
franchises?
You have to rep Winnipeg now.
Forget.
No, but with Luther, I mean, it's definitely a big blow for Georgia, but I look at it this way. It's one of those deals where there's kids, Jordan Birch, Blaine could tell you, that was one where I don't think he could tell a single staff no, but he had to when he signed. Like there are those types of deals where it's like a guy just can't tell a staff no. Zach Evans? We're not going to talk about that one. But it's just a tough one because Missouri, like I just think staying close to his dad was the main appeal. The NIL being the big kid from there. I think Georgia hit it out of the park with the visit, and people there felt confident. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. I can tell you, even people inside Georgia were confident. So I don't think this is just a thing about Blaine being wrong. I just think it's about the kid, going back and forth, not being able to tell somebody no. So leading everybody on.
No, it definitely happens. And, when you, as I mentioned, Blaine, when you have somebody tell other recruits, hey, I'm coming, 9 times out of 10, that's accurate. One time out of 10, it's, hey, we're having a good time. I don't want to burst your bubble. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. Then I'm going home. I don't ever have to see you again until we until we play.
It's like somebody at the bar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll tell you this. My son was working down at Orange Beach in the summer, and he's basically putting out the chairs, the umbrellas for the people to come out, made good money, all on tips. But he said, Dad, it's funny. When you go to the beach and you meet people for the first time, I've never met a fellow wrestler who didn't win state. I've never met a hunter who didn't shoot a 30-point buck. I've never met a guy who caught less than an 18-pound bass. It's just when you can remake yourself, and you don't have to see people again, you can say all sorts of things. And I'm not saying the kid did that. I'm just saying it's a situation where, different recruits were in town or talking to him, and you tell him what you want to hear, or he was honestly planning on coming to Georgia. But then you get
Yeah.
back home and they're like, hey, that's really, you remember how long that flight was? Oh, yeah. And Dad's like, it would be a lot easier for me, son, here in St. Louis if I could just drive an hour to see you.
Yeah.
You're
And
And he's going pro either way. It doesn't matter. The kid will go pro if he goes to Athens Tech. You know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and like I said, I just wanted to jump on here, and like I told everybody, I'd take it on the chin if I get it wrong. So here I am, admitting I got it wrong, and we'll do the same process going to the next one. So, appreciate everybody on the vent and the vault and all that. So, but we'll keep at it.
All right, man. Keep it up, Blaine. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Kiss, kids. Good night. All right, Ben. He makes a good point. You can only go by what you were told. I won't get into some of the things I were told.
I know the Clemson tight end story. I think Roddy reminds me a lot of his good buddy John. You may know him on the board. Roddy does the history lesson, just like our good buddy John, Athens dog over there on the board.
Yeah, he
with his Clemson tight end. He'll probably tell you about when he was over at a different place, how he had a story written up. Kid changed his mind literally the next morning. I remember Trey Sanders. That was one, Roddy, that I remember the board. That was not a good one. Everything was Georgia. I think he was silently committed to Georgia. 2 hours before he signed, it just flipped right to Alabama. And, it's one of those deals. Those are going to happen. They happen every cycle. N'Kobe Dean,
George Pickens.
Yeah, George Pickens and N'Kobe Dean. Those worked in Georgia's favors. I remember N'Kobe Dean, Roddy. Nobody knew. It was like 5 different schools, and everyone was like, whoa, where's he going? Zach Evans, that was a total different deal. So
didn't Money Rice commit to LSU and was like going there?
Yeah, and then I think, didn't he flip like 3 days later or something?
Yeah, it was like 3 days later. I got a text. He's in Athens. I'm like, this kid's been committed for 72, for a week or something, and wound up not going there. It's just, was that like post signing day or something? I mean, it was just wild. So
Roquan was probably the most wild. I mean, what he committed publicly on signing day to UCLA, and then ended up signing with Georgia later that day. I've never seen anything like that.
Coach had gone to the Falcons and he didn't know, or
exactly
right before and didn't have time to change or something.
All right. So and again, I'm not going to give away my sources here, but I reached out to some people that I know, and these are people that absolutely know. These are people that if they tell me something, I run a story, not what we're hearing. This is a dead on story.
Yeah, what we're hearing, Roddy trolls to be the bad cop.
No, I'm just saying this guy's. Reached out to somebody in Georgia within the program, and he says, "Hey, 2 people close to Luther Burden think it's Georgia." So 2. He says, "We think it's Georgia." Okay, but he has not said that it is Georgia. So that's why I said, as of noon or lunchtime, I knew he had not spoken and told Georgia, "Hey, I'm coming." So that was only my hesitation. Everybody around him, everybody's talking to this kid, recruits, coaches. Support personnel, the caterers that brought them food over the weekend. Everybody thinks this kid's going to Georgia, But my hesitation. This is me and Blaine. We went back and forth over this 9-10 times. I'm like, I know you. This is what you think, and I can't fault your reasoning, but something in my evil little heart tells me this is a Derek Brown situation where the kid has told people he's coming and he's not, because he hasn't said to the coaches. At this late date, he hasn't confirmed it. Lots of times, you guys notice when we have stories, we have them written out. We have the story, we have the video breakdown, we have the behind the scenes, we have the graphics, we have all that stuff together. We weren't able to do that with this kid. Sometimes the really big names don't. Zach Evans and guys like that, Sometimes it does go down to the last second. And you see people make these big declarations. Oh, he's a dog. Oh, he's a tiger. You don't know that. You don't. There's still last second. I don't say shenanigans. There's last second.
There is.
Well, there is, but there's also last second stuff going on. A lot of times it's not shenanigans. It's just last second pitches. Why do you think the coaches burn up those phones on signing day? So that's just how it goes.
Well, Rodney, we talked about this the other day. It's like if you tell one coaching staff that you're coming, the other coaching staff starts saying, "Hey, we're not coming. We're going to start circling back to other guys or whatever," and then it comes out that way. And if the kid doesn't want that happening, and he's in tune with recruiting, he's not going to tell anybody that.
Absolutely, that's the best thing. If you don't want it out, don't tell anybody.
Don't let it out. Exactly.
Right. Don't let it out. So let's say I have something I want to tell Ben. I'm like, all right, Ben, this is just between us. Can't tell anybody. And here's what's going to happen. Now Ben will take that and he'll hang up with me, and Ben's like, okay, Roddy trusts me with that. But I trust Jed. I trust Jed with my life. I know Jed won't say a damn thing. This guy is, we're blood brothers. This is Romulus and Remus here. We're diehards,
I appreciate that.
and you tell him because, now you've got something, and you prepare, and Jed needs to be prepared because maybe Jed's going to fly out or drive out to Missouri or something like that. And you can either save him a trip or make sure he gets a first class ticket. You want to do that. So now Jed knows. Now, Jed has somebody else who he is diehard, he's super close with. And then he tells that person, swearing them to secrecy. And then that person tells someone who they swear to secrecy. By the time it's done, 50 people know. And this thing is like, we always have people try to figure out, well, how did this information get out? Especially like with coaching searches. A guy takes a job or turns down a job. Well, it's not the school or the staff that's getting the kid that leaks it. It's the ones who aren't getting it because all of a sudden they put out 3 new offers for running backs when they just missed on a big running back target. Well, there it is, or they'll let people know, hey, we missed on the kid. They've got no reason to protect his secret anymore because the kid's not coming. Anyway. Yeah, this didn't come out from either side. If you watch the live stream with Gabe, he's like, we do not know, and Gabe knows everything that goes on at Missouri. There's very little competition in that market because Gabe has smothered everybody. He has killed them all. So when Gabe's like, we don't know, I'm like, the guy who breaks 98% of the information in that or the stories in that market doesn't know exactly where this kid's going. Yeah, this was one played very close to the vest.
Yeah, because I was going to say, usually sometimes we'll have a kid talk to us before they commit, and they're like, hey, this is the deal. The one time I remember talking to Luther at the end of June, and he told me, I think he decommitted in August from Oklahoma. He told me off the record at the end of June, he told me, yeah, I'm considering decommitting from Oklahoma. He's like, I'm probably going to do it. And I remember at that time I asked him, and I said, what's the main school? And he said Georgia was the first one that popped up. So this is definitely one of those where it's like, obviously things change. And I always think the longer it goes, the home school usually wins out. That's why I think, look at Michael Williams coming up. That's one that I think can go in Georgia's favor because the longer it goes, I think the hometown appeal usually does win out. So it's one of those cases.
Yeah, and say we'll be mad, and we'll let Paul touch on this. Welcome Paul Maher to it. So we will point out to that Georgia, this kid leads Georgia on, right? The fans get mad. Well, didn't George Pickens lead Auburn on until the very last second? When he flips to Georgia, it's like, well, he made the right decision in the end, But if it goes the other way, it's like that son of a bitch. He needs to be beaten up. But it's also a good point. How many times has Georgia used that proximity? You don't want to go all the way to Southern Cal to play football. Hey, Michael, you're a 5-star guy who we think could be a freshman starter. Come to Georgia. It's just up the street, and that works for Georgia. So, Paul, jump on here because you've always got a good take on this stuff. Or at least that's what I think.
Yeah. It kept me around long enough, I guess. No, one thing that kind of we touched on earlier in these shows that we were doing on Sunday, when there wasn't much to talk about in the off season, was NIL. And I talked to Ben, and I talked to Jed, and I talked to everybody that came on the show, Blaine, Jason Butt, Trent. And I said, look, guys, the parity in college football with recruiting, I think, is going to be a little different now with this whole NIL thing. And one school I brought up was Kentucky. Well, Kentucky was 6-0 this year, and things of that nature. But moving forward, I think you're going to see this more often. I think you're going to see some bigger name kids kind of sitting at home and staying around their home base. And it's because of NIL. He said it was a family decision. That could be one reason why. They, like Roddy said earlier in the show, it's a long trip from Missouri to Athens. We've made it in the truck to go out there to games before, Roddy. It's a long drive, and that could be a reason. But I also do really want to touch base on that NIL and get your guys' opinion on that because, I really think that played a huge factor into this. There's a lot of big Missouri donors. He's a local kid, 5-star product. And I just think we're going to start seeing this a little bit more often. And it's not just going to be your Georgias and Alabamas of the world. Other schools, other SEC schools like Missouri, like Kentucky, they have money donors too. They have others, they have guys like that at their school. I think this is going to be, I don't want to say a trend, But I think you're going to see this more often than not. Whereas in recent years, all these kids were going to Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson, and Oklahoma.
I think you make a
I have
point.
a good point there, Roddy. You know, Paul does bring a point. Look at Travis. I'm just looking at the top 10 players in our Rivals 250. Travis Hunter to Florida State. Walter Nolan, I would think maybe Tennessee now, like as a great chance. Travis Shaw to North Carolina. He's their highest rated recruit ever in state. Julian Armello's number 4, and they're talking Florida State, you know, being the leader, and they're not looking good. Then you get Singletary, then Luther Burden, and then you go down like Damani Jackson still committed to USC, and they don't even have a coach. And it doesn't seem like you look at the top 10 recruits that are all committed or where they're leaning, they're the schools that have like 500 records or less. So it goes to show the NIL and the hometown appeal now to say, hey, you could be the hometown kid. We have NIL, you know, you could get all this money from endorsement, local endorsements. You're the local kid. You can be the star. Like Travis Shaw, they're probably telling him, oh, Travis Shaw, the highest rated recruit ever out of North Carolina, biggest commit ever. Oh, he's probably going to get big NIL money from being there and staying close to home. Yep. So it's showing that it's already working. Like look at the top 10 recruits. Jaheim Singletary, I would say, ends up at Georgia. And who knows about Bear Alexander between Georgia and A&M. But just looking at it, Alabama might not land a single top 10 overall recruit. And same with Clemson, same with Ohio State. They're not in it for any of these guys. So that goes to show this year, at least this year, it's a unique year in recruiting, the first year of NIL.
No, you're right. I want to my first thought was somebody said it on the board. And I apologize to the folks watching on UGAsports.com. Someone said this is the Super Bowl for Missouri's recruiting, you know, and somebody said this is like the Florida game for Georgia's recruiting. Yeah, I said this when Travis Shaw went to North Carolina. I said, you're going to see these, and I don't want to say a smaller school, but because UNC is not a small school by any way, shape, or form, but non-traditional recruiting powerhouses land some 5-star kids because they're going to have everybody go all in on one kid.
Yeah.
All the NIL stuff. You have Anheuser-Busch, that grocery store chain that his Luther Burden's dad works at. All of a sudden, he's the face of their new promotion.
Imagine that.
I'm just saying, 10 other, and it would be smart for them. It's like, look, one of the most decorated kids in forever. He's there. Even if Missouri stinks, he's still catching touchdown passes for him, and just like Van was doing for South Carolina, it's like, okay, this guy is a local kid. It's a big deal. And point being, they can go in all on one guy, right? Georgia is in on 30 of them. And I think this was a kid when he decommitted, he was going to go to Missouri, no questions asked. That's what Gabe was talking about. Gabe's like, hey, it's Missouri by a long shot. And Georgia closed that gap to get it even. And that's a hell of a thing. And if you keep doing that, you're going to make more than you missed. Notice nobody else's hat got thrown off the table that had a chance. The fact that Miami was in it, Clemson was in it, nobody else was in it. Oh, and we had a guy who was just about to join us and he jumped off. Sorry about that. Hey, but folks, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the link in the comments. You too can jump on the show, and we'll be happy to have you. So don't hesitate.
Hey, Pastor Paul, you were the one that came on. Come back on with us there.
Yeah,
we'll get you
but that's the point.
Yeah, Paul, we didn't get to see your drunk buddy make his Florida prediction because you weren't on. So I think he was scared. He missed you on Saturday. Definitely not as big of a fan of Roddy.
Yeah, that's probably it. Jed, you just put up a story about 3 possible commits that Georgia could get, and my thinking was every time Georgia misses on something or has some bad news, they seem to have another guy in the wings waiting to burst out. Maybe Lou Ball was supposed to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I said, like we had a Lou Ball in the Who's Next story after Oscar Delp committed, and lo and behold, he was Who's Next. I think when you look at receivers specifically, I think Blaine mentioned these guys. You look at 2 guys, like a Shaz Preston out of Louisiana. Georgia's been in it with him. He's taking an official visit to Athens at some point this fall. And obviously there you go, John Gibson, you read my mind. Obviously LSU's got all the Coach O stuff with his girlfriends and, people coming to practice and hitting on administrators' wives and all that kind of stuff. So as funny as that stuff is.
Who hasn't? Who
among us?
Don't throw stones. Hey, you work out a lot? So what, you're pregnant?
I mean, Roddy, if you wanted me to make a prediction on who I think's the most likely receiver, especially among Andre Green, Shaz President, Coach Oantui. Just based off of what I heard today, I think Coach Oantui would be the most likely. Based off of stuff I was told today, I think that Georgia's chances of landing him have significantly gone up since the season. And he's one of those deals that I've kind of heard that the hometown appeal is starting to, that sales pitch is starting to get to him a little bit. I'm not saying it's like for sure that he's flipping, but that's one that, like, if you would have told me in, July, Georgia was clearly second or third right there behind Ohio State and maybe right there with A&M. Now I think Georgia has a real chance to land him. I'm not going to go as far to say he's flipping or I would predict that yet, but I think that he's the one that's trending the most of the three.
The guy that Georgia's going to get to be their next top wide receiver is Travis Hunter. Just mark him down. Bring him over, put him at wide receiver. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Hey, Roddy, can we touch on Kevin Drummer's comment again?
Yep. Let me pull it back up here. Thanks, Kevin.
So, yeah, Kevin, he says NIL equates to thousands now at a bad school versus millions later as a first rounder at a good school for the elite guys. I understand that. But at the same token, I grew up pretty poor. If I had a chance to get my mom out of where she was from and then just go to school and, people were going to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to their school and I could give that money directly to my mom to get her out, I would have done it in a heartbeat and then focus on the NFL. The NFL's never promised, as much as we want to think it is for these first, these 5-star kids, it's never promised. Get the money now, try to make the money later. You can always transfer schools. But I just wanted to touch on that. If somebody came up to me back then, $200,000,
no,
yeah, man, I'm here.
No, I'm with Kevin. I get what he's saying, but I also think that here's the thing. My thought, and this was before I started talking to scouts some years ago, I thought you had to kind of go to a big school to get attention and stuff like that. But when you start talking to these NFL scouts, like I said, this kid could go to Athens Tech, which doesn't even have a football program, and 3 years later get picked up by the league. When you have that kind of clear talent, as long as you don't get hurt,
exactly.
The NFL knows who you are. Trust me, the NFL calls guys like me and you guys, I'm sure you've gotten the calls. Hey, what was this kid like in high school? He missed 3 games of the senior season because of this. What was it? What was it really? They do research. They follow these kids in high school to see how they're going to mature and how they grow in the college. Then they're ready to pick them up in the NFL. They do their homework. So top guys already see it. If you're an unknown guy, maybe it behooves you to go to a school where you could pop out and be seen. Just like in high school, it helps you to be at a bigger school so that the scouts come by maybe to look at one of your teammates and they see you as well. But I think it's a situation like this. Luther Burden, he was like Matt Stafford coming to Georgia. I need a place to park myself for 3 years, then I'm going pro. Hey, that sounds like a great school. I'll go there and have a good time. Luther Burden will double dip. He will do well at whatever school he goes to through NIL stuff and get millions. I don't know that he'll get more millions by going to Georgia or Alabama versus Mizzou. But Jed, remember when he decommitted, he said it was a business decision. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand what is the bad business model about going to Oklahoma? Is it Caleb Williams throwing to you every week? Is it Spencer Rattler throwing to you every week? Is it an offense that
that's Spencer Rattler.
Wide receivers like crazy?
No.
Is it seeing CeeDee Lamb and Marquise Brown doing it in the NFL every Sunday?
It is, because Jaden Hazelwood's not catching a lot of passes out there, so you knew this was different.
I mean, is it? Maybe you should have added another word like immediate business decision. Maybe that would have
cleared it up. Yes, sir.
That would have made more sense.
Immediate business decision. Hey, look, we got Dave joining us.
Roddy, I would say this real quick, though. You brought up about Luther Burden. I can actually use this for Georgia. Do you remember Anthony Edwards in basketball? Yeah. I mean, just look at that. He went to Georgia. He knew, okay, I'm just going to go here for a year. I'm just going to be the guy, and then I'm going to be the number one pick. So, but the only pushback I would have on Paul's NIL thing is I think Luther and Travis are exceptions because they're big-time in-state guys. There's rarely big-time 5-stars from North Carolina and Missouri. Usually the NIL is going to go to the quarterbacks. Like, let's be real. Is an offensive lineman to a college going to make big on NIL? I straight out of high school. I doubt that. Like a lot of those.
You don't think if NIL was around back then, Isaiah Wilson wouldn't have got big money?
No, I don't. Who is an offensive lineman on like Nike ads on TV and all these things you ever see? I rarely see any of them. Like our offensive linemen, big marketable names or flashy names that are going to sell. You know about the quarterback.
They make the second most amount of money on the teams in the NFL.
But in terms of advertisements, are they like a flashy like brand? I'm talking about outside of football. Like they're selling Under Armour, they're selling a fast food chain. You're looking at an offensive lineman. You're looking at like
have you ever
Julio
bought an
Jones.
offensive lineman's shoe?
I don't know
Have you ever
about
seen a
that,
shoe deal?
but
No.
well, shoot. No, I just don't see it because they're
Skechers
not flashy.
Full
You have to
Wide,
be like
40
really special, like Aaron Donald type special to like be able to sell. Like I doubt who's the one like Lane Johnson in the NFL? Do you see him on ads? Like he's probably one of the top 5 linemen. You never see it. So like certain positions aren't going to sell as much, but a kid like Luther Burden, because of how big he is in Missouri, I could see that. But I just think outside the quarterback, not many guys are going to sell big.
But you're comparing NFL to college, though. College has their own money.
Yeah, but college, you're probably also not going to make as much.
Quick update: the Braves. It's still 5-2 Braves. Let's hope they pull that through. At least it is on my little.
What's up, Dane?
iPad over here. But let's go bring Dane into the clear. Dane's joined us. Dane with all his vast recruiting knowledge. Let's go, Dane.
Yeah. Paul's talking about money and NIL stuff. I will say with NIL though, there's not as much money across the board. Yeah, there's a lot of top end money for some dudes like Ben's talking about, but like ain't a ton of people getting like super, super rich off of this. There's money that helps out a lot. You're seeing Jordan Davis with law firms and stuff like that. But like we were talking with Reese Davis on the podcast that we did a few weeks ago, and it's like, most of the people were getting a few $100 here, a few $100 there.
And that makes me think on the topic of offensive linemen, like I've seen some offensive linemen like IHOP, his pancakes or barbecue places or whatever. Like if you get a good unit of offensive linemen at a place and you could get a group endorsement deal like that for a restaurant or whatever, which again, Dane, like you said, it's not huge money, but you know, it's something that seems like it lends itself as a position group to a lot of like, not novelty, but you know, like a little more,
they're not getting $1 million deal to Bryce Young guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
no one on
$1 million,
Alabama
right?
is other than Bryce Young, you know, and there's a lot of good players in Alabama.
Very true. But again, I think it's a situation where if you are Missouri, if you are, I don't want to say South Carolina, let's use let's say you're Rutgers, you know, and you go all in on one guy, you can say, hey,
yes,
you 10 different organizations, instead of spending, we need this quarterback. We need this top 5 wide receiver. And if I'm Drinkwitz, I reached out to everybody as possible, although they can't set it up, you know, if they called me and said, hey coach, how can we help you? I'd be like, you know, if we all, instead of everybody picking an offensive lineman, a tight end that you like, a kid from your hometown, if everybody goes after this one guy and, you know, you reach out to him and he knows that it's coming. Again, you can't set this stuff up with a high school kid, but you can damn sure talk to his dad, you know.
Well, it's all the equalizer for NIL is, can you get me to the league? And it's harder to do that as a quarterback at a Rutgers than it would be a lot of these other places. Now, that's not going to hurt Luther Burden in this particular instance. No. I think y'all are right on that. I mainly parachuted in here to give an unpopular take, which is kind of what I do.
Sorry, Daddy Blackman cracked me up.
As a storyteller of college football, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like this. Like, I kind of like repping for your state, being the guy, like trying to do that.
Yeah, no,
I kind of
wish
that happen more often in college football rather than it being like so crazy national. Like this is a sport rooted in like regionalism and state lines. And if it became more of that, then like Georgia only benefits because it's just going to lock down the state more and more. But you know, in the grand scheme of things, I think this is probably good for the sport.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That's what I'm getting at. I think the parity, man. That's why I jumped on. The parity is you're going to see these kids. Ben backed it up with facts. Travis Shaw, you know, guys like that staying home. You know, Eli Drinkwitz needed a big time recruit in this cycle. He got him.
Well, I think you bring up a good point this cycle. And when I put my note on the board, again, I was never confident that the kid was coming to Georgia. I'm not saying that was right. I'm just saying I didn't have enough people. I heard the same people saying, yeah, Georgia feels good about it. But knowing that he had never told the coaches that he was coming, it's like, and again, I just had Derek Brown vibes because when the kid decommitted, everyone knew he was going to Missouri. Georgia's in it, but I never got all the supporting stuff saying, yeah, this kid's going to Georgia. You know, it's a last second decision. You know, things could change like that. But I put a little note there. My best guess, hope for the best. But recruit for the portal. You can miss Travis Henry for this year. And then all of a sudden, his uncle no longer works at FSU. Now he's looking around. You missed on Demetrius Robertson first time around. He goes to Cal, comes back to Georgia. A lot of these guys, in other words, you don't burn any bridges. You don't say anything nasty. You keep recruiting them up to signing day. You don't get them on signing day. You just let them know, as Kirby Smart has done numerous times, my door is always open.
And you're seeing the defense system for that already pop up, right? That's why LSU announces halfway through the season, yeah, we're going to have a different coach next year. I'm not going to tell you anything else, but it'll be different. So before you hop in the portal, you might want to see who we get, because it's not just going to be hanging out with what we're doing.
Well, I wonder how many people have already reached out to Spencer Rattler.
Oh God,
Not as many as they would have.
They're not technically
I told you he's going to Ole Miss.
They're not
already had
allowed
my
to
pick
until
in.
he's in the portal. That was the whole point of the portal, and that's kind of the whole point of NIL, is to bring the stuff out of the darkness. It's like, look, kid puts his name in the portal, then everybody can talk to him. But you had that tampering going on for years, and I remember reporting something.
You can talk to the dad though, right? Can't you?
I don't even think you could talk to the dad. I think what a lot of people did is they went to the
Suppose you're
high school
recruiting
head
another
coach.
player, though. Like Roddy, suppose I'm not speculating BJ Ojulari is going to Georgia, but let's say while Aziz was at Georgia and he talked to Aziz's dad while his brother's at LSU or is a recruit or something like that. I mean, couldn't he talk there? Because, he's offering the guy.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. There's the whole, and I had to look it up. It's individuals associated, IAWP, individuals associated with a prospect.
Y'all act like these policies get followed. What the hell,
Right.
man?
That's my point.
Usually it's like a player on the team's friends with that guy, and it's like the coach or somebody will tell that player who can tell that guy, because that's allowed. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh yeah, the coach. Oh yeah, they take you, and then they hit the portal. And they go. They can do that.
Yeah, there's a lot. That was the whole point of the portal and this whole NIL thing. Is a lot of this stuff is happening in the background, under the table. They said,
There's
look,
a lot of DMs being slid into that technically it's not allowed.
Yeah, but it's a lot simpler if you say, look, let's get this out of the dark. Let's put it on the table. It's like the stock market. It doesn't matter if the news is bad or good, as long as it's understood and it's not. It doesn't like variation. The price is baked in. If you can bake the price into the transfer portal, the NIL and stuff like that, and say, look, this is how it is. So you can all. And I know that Georgia was waiting. Georgia was surprised when Darian Kendrick went into the transfer portal they thought he was going to go to the NFL. And I know for a fact that they didn't send him anything. They didn't reach out to him because, again, you never know when the screenshot's going to come up or something like that. But the minute he was in the portal, probably 30 seconds later, they had texted him.
No, but see, Georgia may not have reached out to him, but I bet somebody reached out to him that had somebody
a Georgia fan.
Yeah,
probably a Georgia fan, in that area, Clemson or something like that, ran into the kid at Target or something, or the Publix Bakery,
Publix Bakery. Don't talk about that.
Yeah, goes to Publix or goes to
Aubrey Solomon is transferring.
I saw him at racetrack. Hey man, you ever thought about transferring to Georgia? Yeah, I thought about it. And then you tell a friend of a friend who tells the coach, hey, this kid says he's interested. If you all ever reach out to him, well, he's got to be in the portal first. But they've done their background, and plus, you got these kids that you had a good relationship with them when the last time you saw them. So again, you recruit for the portal because that's coming too.
Yeah, Roddy, because look at college basketball. Isn't Georgia's basketball team now like 9 transfers or something? Like I think I've never seen so many transfers in my life in a sport. And it's like, you think all of those are just natural? Like there's no way a team gets like 10 transfers. It's like, oh, all of them just happen to be in the portal.
Well,
and we just got them.
No, the portal is full. Wasn't there like 1,500 kids in the portal? You really go back through and pick it. And we see I'm hearing from a lot of high school coaches going, these schools aren't pulling a trigger on offers because they're waiting to see who's in the portal first.
It's hurt.
I think there's a downside to this thing.
We all cover UGA athletics. Between the 5 of us, do you think we could name 5 players on the basketball team right now?
I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be embarrassed. But
wait.
I don't think I could.
I know I couldn't. That's why I asked the question. I'm going to learn it as we go.
And where were they in the preseason rankings that just came out?
I know Abdul Rahim, but I don't know his first
I know him too. That's the one.
I got 4.
Oh,
I don't have 5. I don't have 5.
Well, there's a 2022 commit today that we had to check and see if it was a real thing or not. I didn't know JT. So I'm like, Dan, do you know this? And Dan checks it too. He goes, yeah, it's legit. This is Georgia's first 2022 commit. I'm like, okay, great.
That's just the status of college basketball, specifically at Georgia, where it's just like, who are these?
Yeah.
They got Aaron Cook, from Gonzaga. That's one I know. By the way,
You could have made it any name
I can
there.
see Paul over here typing. He's hitting the roster button.
I got 15. I just magically got 15. I don't know.
Paul's like, I can name them all. I can do their heights, weights, hometowns,
last school they were.
last school they
All could be like
Crazy,
this.
don't just hit me.
I can name more guys that transferred out. I think what was that guy?
Like,
Scudo?
oh,
Oh no. I'm trying to think. What was his name? The guy who went to Kentucky. I know him. I don't even know his name, but I know he transferred to Kentucky.
Severe Wheeler.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot Wheeler went to Kentucky. That's gonna be fun to watch.
What was that guy? Henderson or whatever that went to Auburn?
Katie Johnson.
Katie Johnson. Oh, damn.
It's gonna be fun to watch too. This is wild.
This is why Ben's our recruiting guy, not our basketball guy.
I know Maryland hoops, not Georgia hoops. Clearly.
Yeah, Brett Weimer. Georgia was ranked 14th in the SEC. And I don't want to get off and do a whole thing there, but when does I'm really going to be interested to see how the NIL stuff works out for basketball.
Now that I've come in and distracted y'all, I'll let you talk recruiting, and I'm going to head out.
We'll see you, Dane. Appreciate it.
You would think that would have a bigger pull for Georgia and Georgia Tech in terms of basketball recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be the bigger basketball schools that do that, but I'm just not.
But at the same time, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. And
football, everybody likes football, but how many people?
You got to think Tom Crean's getting fired. By the way, I know this is I'm just throwing that in there, but I mean, I just looked the other day, like the top recruits from the state of Georgia, according to rivals here. I mean, they haven't even offered like any of them. Like, you're not even offering any of the top kids in your state. I mean, he knows he's getting fired. I'm sorry, I just had to say it.
I'm gonna hop off, guys. I think I have an echo.
All right. Way to go, Paul.
See ya.
All right. See you guys.
Luther Burton's led to I know he plays basketball, but it's led to a Georgia basketball talk. That's not very good.
It's never good.
Well, I don't hear the echo anymore, so it was obviously Paul. The one guy who's supposed to be able to do this stuff, Kevin Drummer says, how many kids defect from LSU? Definitely a legit problem. I mean, I should say legit problem. I get what Blaine's saying, and that you change the coach so you give him a reason to stick around. But even then, I think a lot of kids will jump into the portal because they're like, I'm more marketable somewhere else.
Well, it's one of those things too, where like, okay, no matter who they hire, the chances are LSU obviously has talent, but there's a certain rebuild process that's going to take place, right? So if you're a guy that's like an Ojulari who's already, been in college a couple of years, do you want to do that for your last year, or do you want to go to a place like Georgia and or Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, whatever, where you can compete right away? You see the same thing in the NFL with guys at the end of their careers that sign these 1-year deals with teams, trying to get a Super Bowl. So I don't know. That's something that's definitely gonna, be interesting to watch. That December to February type window.
Yeah, because Roddy, I was gonna say with LSU especially, there's a lot of Louisiana kids. They're gonna be hard to pull, even in the transfer portal. They'd be hard to pull to get them to leave. Like certain guys, like Elias Ricks and Keyshawn Butte, are gonna be top 10, 15 picks no matter what. They could just sit out like Jamar Chase did. Be top picks. One thing I've been predicting.
Elias Ricks, I'll predict he comes to Georgia too, just because play with his buddy.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you're putting a future cast in there, like Rattler to Ole Miss. Now we have Elias Ricks to Georgia, Roddy. So now we have
to play with JT Daniels next year.
Oh, and Kendall Milton and him grew up. Kendall Milton and him knew each other when they were 6 years old, I believe. So
there you go.
That's one thing. If he hit the
you're making my case for me.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, it's just one of those things. The portals is going to be a new resource now, especially I think for Kirby, though, they're going to use that for immediate needs. I think Coach Donnan talked about it. Like, if Georgia takes a guy in the portal, it's rare that guy does not play right away in some shape or fashion. So they're not going to take a portal guy who you're going to sit for depth. So if a guy hits the portal, like a BJ Ojulari or some random guy. We have not. We're not saying that's
Or
happening.
Luther
We're just
Burden,
throwing random names for
Elias
anyone watching.
Ricks.
If they hit the portal, if they could start right away, I know Georgia would go after him. Otherwise, I doubt Georgia would go after him.
No, yeah, you're not going to waste it. And again, Kirby he said it himself. He's like, I like getting a guy here for 4 years. It's you had that initial counter against your numbers, and then you can limit yourself if you bring in too many portal guys. So if you're going to have an initial counter, it's nice to have him count 4 years, at least minimum 3, ideally 4, maybe 5 if you redshirt him. And then all of a sudden he comes on and you have a super senior type guy like a Devontae White or a Justin Schaefer or Chris Smith, the guys who come on later in their career, they're a backup, they're learning, they help you with practice, they help you with special teams. But you don't want to bring a guy in, and it's the same with just transfers in general. If you don't think the kid can play right now, you don't waste your time. You save that for next year. This class is loaded. Georgia's absolutely loaded. This class is only going to get better. Yeah, you've missed out on Luther Burden, but that's a tough one. But it's there are still a lot of big fish out there, and they still got more. I think they still have more guys that want to come than available spots. So I'm not worried about it. Yeah, Trey McGiddy, there's a good example. Who else did they bring in? I'm trying to think a couple of receivers they brought in.
Akil Crumpton they brought in.
Yeah.
Lawrence Cager, Calvert Hall High School.
Javon Wims, was he a transfer from
JUCO?
JUCO, yeah.
JUCO, yeah. So
Maurice Smith. Do you want to throw him?
Oh yeah, well, right off the bat, Maurice Smith, yeah.
He was the original.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, we're bringing in somebody who can play. Maurice Smith, perfect example. Guy comes in.
What about it? The one was Hayes. Do you remember from Notre Dame? I don't think he played too much, but he was on that team that went
Jay Hayes.
far. Yeah, he didn't play too much.
Yeah, was that the offensive lineman that never played?
D
lineman from Notre Dame.
D lineman. Didn't they also have an offensive?
DeMarcus Hayes. That was JUCO.
Yeah. So you're not going to waste it. But again, that's why I say, look, I'm sure that Kirby will be like, hey, congratulations, Luther Burden. We're here. If anything changes, we got you. Come on down. That's the guy that they would take. So I don't see that ending. Sacred Grove was Lawrence Cager. Yeah, that worked too. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. I just want to get on there and let everybody know kind of what we're hearing and how this whole thing went down. I think it's my gut feeling was it was he got home. He told folks in Athens he was coming. Some folks. He never told that to the coaches, but he told other people that he was. Which again makes sense because it's like when you tell the coaches now it's real. So he told a lot of people, they told their friends, we heard about it, a lot of other people heard about it. That's why you saw people across the industry saying that this kid was going to Georgia. And then when he got back home, Drinkwitz has been working the phone, talking to his dad, talking to him. They say, look, he says it was a family decision. The family wanted him to stay closer to home. So that's my take. Give me your take as well, guys, as kind of a summary.
Capitals fan first.
Well, I would just say finally right now that Luther Burden, once again, I just think that was a decision that really Georgia couldn't do anything more. It was an in-state pool. Sometimes you can't beat those. But I think now for Georgia, you got, I think, Jed and and Blaine both brought up. There's 3 names: Shaz Preston, Kojo Antwi, and Andre Green. Right now, they got to at least land one of those guys. That's what's next for Georgia, or if there's any outside possibility, they're going to probably still talk to him. But that's what's next for Georgia. You just got to take that miss, keep swinging at one of those 3 names or in the portal.
Yeah, kind of building off what Ben said. I think, we talked about this a little bit on the recruiting show last night, but I think Georgia would have taken 2 more receivers if it was Burden and, a Shaz Preston or Kojo, whoever. But now I think Georgia looks to take 1 more receiver, one of those big name guys, and maybe use another scholarship for defensive backs, offensive linemen, whatever. But like Ben said, I think they really hone in on those guys: Kojo, Andre Green, Shaz Preston. Travis Hunter is still, not impossible. So I think they're going to try to really swing big, get 1 more guy as opposed to Burden plus 1. And we'll see who that guy ends up being here, over the next few weeks.
I was just about to say, it really sucks for Georgia to miss out on a guy like that. But then I thought, isn't Lad McConkey the leading wideout right now?
Exactly. There you go.
Well, technically, isn't it Bowers?
He's a leading tight end.
Well, Georgia only uses tight ends now.
Yeah,
tight
I just said,
ends,
out
tight
of the
ends, they don't
receiver
need
group-
receivers. I don't understand. They should just cut these three guys. And just,
When Cole Spear is leading the team in receiving yards at this point next year, this is all going to be forgotten anyway.
Hey,
so.
and I'm telling you, if I think Dylan Bell is an absolute baller.
Mhm.
I don't think it matters, right? They're going to have three 1,000-yard tight ends. It doesn't matter.
That's fine by me. They'll finally have learned. I'll probably retire. I'll probably go open up a Europe or something like that. But I will have I will have done my duty as a UGA alum to teach them the error of their ways and teach them the magnificence of throwing to the tight end. The first down makers, the red zone destroyers. Give me my tight ends catching the ball out of the backfield, or at least have somebody confused as to whether or not they're going to get it. And I loved that drive in the second half last week where they threw it to three different tight ends in one drive. I'm like, 7 of 7. It was like taking money, like taking candy from a baby. Just hell, taking money from a baby. It's like, give me your money,
candy.
You don't deserve this little stupid little baby. Just take the money away from him because you can't cover those tight ends. And but point being, yes, you need a Luther Burden. You need a George Pickens. You definitely need them in those big games. You saw what Devontae Smith did for Alabama. You've seen what those guys do. It hurts to miss on a guy like this, but don't discount the ones you do have and the ones you can get, because you're never quite certain who's going to be the top guy. I thought Demetrius Robertson was going to kill it. He's doing well for Auburn. He did not really get it done well here. We can go down the long list of guys who I just thought, or who we all thought were going to be stellar, who did not pan out. And then there are guys like Lad McConkey that nobody hardly knew his name, who absolutely tear it up. Hell, I mean, we didn't know that A.D. Mitchell was going to be as good as he was. So,
right.
Anyway, folks, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're going to cut out here. Be sure to go by UGA Sports and check out the Who's Next article. There's 3 names in there of guys that could commit to Georgia. Some very big names of that, and more to come. We will have tons of coverage at UGA Sports. Check it out. And if you would, please hit the subscribe button here. I want to get to 20,000. I don't know why that number stuck in my head. We're like over 18. I want to get to 20,000 as just maybe pure vanity, but it would mean a lot to us if you would hit that subscribe button, and we appreciate it. Y'all take care.